Everyone's lives have obstacles that they must overcome. This is true in a day-to-day life, as well as being true in stories and novels. Obstacles can be huge, or they can be small, and they can be very personalized depending on what someone is going through. People have their own obstacles that they have to overcome, and no two people are going to have the exact same problems in their day-to-day lives. In the novel of Mice and Men, the main characters George and Lenny have to overcome many obstacles most people would never even have to think about. In the beginning of the story, George and Lenny have to escape a small town that they worked in called Weed. Their problem or obstacle was that Lenny was holding on to a girl and not letting go. This isn't a very common issue that most people will face, but it's an issue that George and Lenny had and one that they had to deal with. Their solution to this issue or obstacle was hiding out in a ditch for a long time as people searched for them until they thought it was safe enough for them to be able to escape. Another obstacle George and Lenny had to overcome was what started their adventure together. Lenny was taken care of by his Aunt Clara, and she looked after him because it was not safe for him to be left alone. When Lenny's aunt passed and Lenny didn't have a place to go, George took in Lenny and they traveled together looking for work. George felt obligated to take in Lenny after his aunt passed, and this is how they solved this issue. Again, this isn't a very common problem for someone to have to take in another, but it happened in George and Lenny and they overcame their obstacle. George and Lenny's obstacles were very uncommon, one being to have to escape a town that they were no longer welcome in, and one being to have to take in another because they had nowhere to go. I also have some very uncommon obstacles that needed to be solving within my diabetes. Being a type 1 diabetic is not exactly common, so my issues within controlling my blood sugars during quarantine are not common among the general population. In my life during quarantine, I've had to overcome many of my own obstacles. My blood sugars were difficult to control in the beginning of quarantine because my life had less structure than it did when I was in school. When I was in school, I would get up at around 6, eat at a certain time every day, and have a general time on when I would go back to bed. However, when quarantine started, I had less structure on when I would get up, when I would eat, and when I would go back to bed. This lack of structure made my blood sugars abnormal. So to combat this issue, I would get up around 9 on the weekdays to start my schoolwork, and eat around the same time every day. I also started running for the upcoming cross-country season and working out every day. Being active really helps keep my blood sugars down rather than elevated, so this helped me get away from high blood sugars. All of this really helped my blood sugars become more normalized. Overall, all of these obstacles needed and now have solutions. This shows how literature can really shine a light on your own life and how similar the book you're reading can be to your life. Although the obstacles were very different, they all needed to be solved in their own way, and the literature shows that these obstacles do have solutions. Whether it was running away from a town, having to stay with somebody else, or having to manage my diabetes when my life had less structure.